Hello. If you want to support us here at The Contemporary Gentleman, you can buy into our Spy series, links below. And depending on when this was recorded, we may or may not have an Instagram and or Patreon. If we do, links are below. Cheers. Hello everyone, James Donaldson here again, and as I told you, I was going to be doing a video on the X300 series, and I was going to wear the same shirt as my other Surefire video regarding the rifle lights, and yes, for continuity. So, here I am, same shirt. In fact, I filmed that video moments ago, or stopped filming it moments ago, about the rifle lights. So, if you're interested to learn which X300 you should buy, stay tuned. Alright, so getting back into it, right, this is a little simpler. I don't have to have so much, brain salad over naming conventions. They're all X300s. There's a U for Ultra, this one, which you can't see very well. There is a T for Turbo, and then there's a V for Vampire. And as usual, the Vampire kind of sets itself apart. Now let's talk the U first, because it came first. 1500 or 1000 lumens, excuse me. Okay, and I love the switching. It rotates, this way, that way, constant on each, pushing it forward, temporary on. So you can do it either side. Now, that's the same for all three. I appreciate that. The Ultra is more of a wide beam pattern, kind of like referencing back to the regular Dual Fuel Pro. It's more about wideness. It also came out way before the Turbo, so a lot of people probably have more than one of these. It's a great light. I like it. So, anyway. Moving on from there, we go to the Vampire next. Vampire, like the Scout version of it, it has adjustments. So it's in off right now. Now it's in IR, which you're probably not going to be able to see. Nope. And of course you got your normal white. So, yay. The Vampire, just like the other one, I shouldn't say just like the other one. The Vampire is sized a little bit differently. Someone should note that before we go any further. So when holsters say it works for an X300, U or T or both, but it's got to be the A, and also works on the Vampire. So I have all these are the A for me, which I like. The Vampire is just a tad longer, as you'll see in some pictures, and therefore it just doesn't seat the same. So even when they carve a little more out or anything like that, I just haven't found a holster yet that really fits it. I would say the exception to that is the Safariland RDS 6300 series. Rolling pictures. And, of course, correct myself up here as I'm starting to do more consistently. You'd be surprised how often you can misspeak, not catch it until editing. So, anyway, moving on from there. Let's talk about them. So, the T, the Turbo, of course, just referencing back to the rifle lights, it's going to have your beam pattern go straight out. Now, and then your Vampire, similar to the rifles, is kind of in the middle as far as the candela, the overall floodage, all that, a little more in the middle. But spoiler alert, my outcome is kind of the same as far as these three. The Turbo being, you can see the farthest Vampire coming in the middle, and then the Ultra in the back. Now, choice order, I'd say, is going to be really similar to my rifle video. And the interesting thing, so I put these through the same paces as the rifle. And by the way, I forgot to say this in the other video, all these lights, I kept changing out batteries to make sure everything was performing at its optimal level. So there shouldn't be any problem there. The Vampire was reaching further out, and I'm probably going to go ahead and roll in the video anyway, but the Vampire was reaching out, like the pistol Vampire was reaching out farther than the dual fuel rifle light. Alright, just kidding, we're not going to 300, but we are going to compare the X300s. So, I guess it's going to be obvious, but here is the Ultra. I can actually kind of pick up the 200 meter, not so much 300 meter. I mean, it's not bad. I'm seeing better than I thought I could see. The turbo, holy shit. The turbo is picking up 200 meters, no problem, and 300. I would say about as good as the normal Scout. In fact, that picks it up better. So, okay. Holy shit. This would be really good for rifle light, honestly. Now, we can go ahead and we'll do... And that's not bad either. I would honestly... So, this is the Vampire. I would honestly put... I mean, the Vampire's almost caught up to... the normal bright as shit Scout light, so that's impressive. Alright, to the 300. Like that, again, I can look at paper, but sometimes to see this shit in practice, it's just crazy. So, not that I am even saying you should do this or recommending this, but I will say it's not crazy to just get an X300 Vampire and then move it, especially if you get the A, move it from your pistol to your rifle and whatever you're doing with it. At least until you save up for another light. Like it's a really viable option. Again, I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not recommending it. I think rifle lights for rifles, pistol lights for pistols, and there's some other reasons why I don't necessarily recommend an X300 on a rifle. It can be done. Many have done it. They've had no problems. I'm just saying how performance-wise, performance backs up that concept. It's not just someone throwing a pistol light on a rifle because they don't want to buy another light or something, or they don't have one or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm just going to do this as a placeholder, and it's going to be modular, almost like getting a suppressor in 30 cal and then just using that until you eventually get a 5.56 one. It's like, it can actually do the rolls. Mind blown. Okay, I'm going to stop gushing over it and rambling. So, going from there with your close range, really not a huge difference in the light. Okay, pistol light time. So, again, we're going to start with the Vampire, which is a white light. Alright, so here's where we're at, and keep in mind I'm kind of in the way along with the camera. It's my shadow, so not bad. And then using my naked eye, I mean, I can see, you know, it's better than pitch dark. And maybe we'll introduce some light. There's the hot spot. So we've established this does throw pretty far. Let's go ahead. That safe door I mentioned in the other video, I can kind of see it. Maybe it's because, yeah, okay. So the light was further back to me because it's a pistol light, obviously, and not mounted to anything. So, pushing it forward a little more even with the pros. Now, we'll go to the Ultra. So, the Ultra, there it is. Definitely, I'd say it definitely spreads out in the room better. There it is. It's kind of washing out in the camera because I turned the adjustments up, because at first you really couldn't see any of them, so interesting. But I can see everything. Safe door for sure off to my left that I mentioned. So Obviously, I think the Ultra is going to do better in this kind of environment. Now, having said that, how much better? What's better, right? Let's see the turbo. Okay, quite bright, definitely illuminating things, for sure. So, turning it around to the front here, hot as shit in the center, you can see everything down. Safe door to my left, definitely see it very well. So, I mean, I wouldn't say like, yeah, okay, the Ultra's better, air quotes, but like, I'm not going to use, based on everything else I've seen so far, I'm going to go with the turbo. And this test solidifies that, because the Ultra is not outperforming the turbo a lot. So by a little bit. Certainly not enough for me to deem all the other scenarios the turbo shines, no pun intended. Actually, it was completely intended. But anyway, all the other scenarios the turbo shines, I'm not going to throw that away for just one scenario where the Ultra does a little bit better. So there you have it. It's again, that's where we're at a very similar comparison to when we look at the then medium setting when I was in the berms and everything was kind of spaced out. Is the performance was not different enough to where I'm going to say that the U is by preference. Now, again, what is your use case? Are you SWAT and you're focused on one building in an urban environment and you're really not going to need to shoot out that far? Sure, okay. But, or are you some dude in the field and you might need your beam to go out? You know? Well, I think we should talk about those in the caveats and variables. So getting in the caveats and variables, right, it's this whole thing of I do understand the argument, and this applies more, I think, to pistol lights than rifle, hence why I didn't really talk about it in the rifle video. But people will say, how far away am I trying to shoot? How far am I away? You know, I'm not trying to shoot my pistol at 100 yards. Okay, fine, I get that. But its ability to help you gather information. So I want to give you, this is kind of like a concept I try to hit home when I teach, like CQB or something like that, or shooting in low light environments. So in a perfect world, right, you would be the Highlander after he kills the Kurgan. You would know everything. So when you walk into a room, you would just know who's in there before you even walk in. You know what their intentions are, what weapons they have or don't have, or whatever, right? You're way far removed from that. You're a mortal human being, and all you can base your awareness on is your five senses. And then you have to tack in your memory. Do you remember what color that guy's shirt was? Where does all this matter? Well, if you're trying to survive, which in some cases isn't as hard as others, it behooves you to have knowledge of your surroundings. So when you take away sight because there's no light, you need some knowledge. So when you turn on your turbo, you're getting knowledge from further away. I agree, in many cases, closer things are more important. But when you've got your Ultra, right, so it's wider, so we'll even play this little game. Throw the Ultra on there, and, okay, I'm up, and light on. Okay, so now I'm getting all this information. Great. Okay, but if I need to see further, there's no way to do that. Whereas if I have the turbo on, okay, up, and then, okay, I'm not getting quite the same ring of information, I can turn a little bit. Right? I'm still lined up with my dot, turning. So you can make the turbo work in an environment where the Ultra performs a little better, but you can't make the Ultra perform where the turbo does, right? Does that make sense? So again, it goes back to your information gathering. I can gather all the information, even if it takes a little bit of massaging with the turbo. I can't gather all the information with the uniform. So you're losing out on that. Now, I understand, again, where someone just isn't concerned about far away. Okay, all right. Now we'll draw back and we're going to roll in the video of how these lights cut through photons, especially ones aimed at you. Alright, now here we are with the Ultra. Okay, shines through pretty good, illuminating all that. Very wide beam pattern, as you can see. Again, it looks a little better in the camera than it does with the naked eye, but that's going to be the same for all of them. So they're really all being held to the same standard. I mean, looking just around the spot, I have no idea how many lumens or anything that is, candela, whatever, but it definitely is making things clear. Now we will do the Vampire. Alright, so the Vampire really does a pretty good job of just cutting through. Now the beam pattern is just a lot tighter, and again, looks a little better on camera than it does in real life. But the point is, there's no question that I can see exactly what it is, as long as it's in the beam. So again, like shining kind of up there at the house. Now for contrast, here's the Ultra. I mean, other than a tighter beam pattern, it's really not that much dimmer, which is crazy considering the lumens. Now, of course, here is the Turbo, and that, of course, cuts through, no problem, right there. I mean, just gassing through. And again, for contrast, we'll do the Ultra. So that's kind of the OG there, but there's the Ultra, and there's the Ultra. Just that much more of an intense beam, and like I said, tighter, but it definitely has a bigger outer circle than the Vampire does, you know. So I guess for close range work, if you guys are working with an Ultra, by all means stick with it, and if you're not, consider the Turbo. But in this kind of environment, the center is definitely cutting through. Yeah, but the Ultra is actually performing better than I thought it would in this test. So I'm sure there's no surprise there, and of course I rolled in the Vampire as well. It's performing, yeah, of course, better than I thought it would. So that's kind of, again, why I hammer on the Turbo being so good, is because you can make it work where it doesn't, and then it works really well in a couple other areas where the Ultra just doesn't perform as well. Now, again, it comes back to your use case, your intentions, all that. Should you immediately get rid of your Ultra and get a Turbo? I'm not necessarily saying that. But if you're thinking about things the way I'm explaining them, and it makes sense to you, and you do enough research on your own, I never want anyone to do anything just based on one of my videos, or in any of my videos necessarily. I just want to get people to think and consider some things. So, at the end of the day, I think that's really all there is to it. Again, I know there's all kinds of conversations we can have about competitors. I'm tired of talking about them. This video is if you are interested in buying an X300 and you want to know which one to buy, here's some criteria to make your decision to base it on. Now, again, specs, I don't think I rolled those in earlier, mentioned them. The Turbo does have less lumens, but again, I think you can see how the candela is really pushing it out there as far as how it can perform and cut through things. So, yeah, at the end of the day, the numbers are as they are, and now you've seen some videos kind of showing what these lights are capable of, and hopefully you can make a decision on your own. This has been James Donaldson with the Contemporary Gentleman, and until next time, keep your composure.